Hey everybody, I guess we can color Eeyore, even if nobody really wants to. Just kidding, we all want to. It's Eeyore. So let's start with his muzzle. We're going to be using EO2, E000, E quad 0. And we're going to be starting with that EO2 right in the bottom of his muzzle and right up into the sides. Okay, so if you've watched any of my other tutorials, that Eeyore is my absolute favorite character from Winnie the Pooh and from this Oh Pooh stamp set by us here at StampAnniething. He is absolutely 100% my favorite, and I could just color him over and over and over again. Now, so you can see here, we're using our E000 to blend in that little bit of that muzzle color, and we've left some light space at the top, and we're going to fill that in just a little bit, but not too much, because we're going to go back in with our E quad 0 and then blend that all out, and just make sure everything is nice and perfect in his muzzle. So I've asked before in some other videos, but I want to know who's your favorite. For me, it's always going to be your every day, all day. So next up, we're going to color his mane, and we're going to be using N9, N7, and N5. We're going to be using our flick method that we often use for his hair. And the mane, or on a horse, it would be called a forelock, so that's what we're going to call this. So we're going to color in his forelock with just a few flicks coming in from all the points. So each point that you see drawn is where I'm going to, and if you would like to follow along and do as well, you're just going to flick in just very lightly using the tip of your Copic right in from those points. And that is with your N9, so that is your neutral gray. And we're going to come out right from the top of his head as well, and we're going to kind of follow the curve along. And again, spin your image, make it easier for you to color. There's nobody that's ever said keep your image in one static position. Move it around, always make it easier for you. So next up, we're using that N7, and we're going to continue with that flick motion, and we're just bringing out and extending it from where we laid down our N9. So I know, and you know now, over and over repeatedly, that Eeyore is my favorite. Annie is Piglet is her favorite. I don't know if Steven has a favorite. I wonder about the rest of the design team. I don't know. But now we're going to be using our N5, and we're going to fill in those little white spaces that we left behind. And we're just kind of flicking it in there. And again, don't leave any white. I like to see this part all covered. We'll add in some highlights with a white Posca at the very end of our coloring. So again, this video has been done in real time. This is not a sped up version because these images are super easy to color and they don't take that much time. So next up, once we've got his forelock and his tail done, we're going to be coloring that ribbon with RV14 and RV13. Again, you're just going to want to be careful that you're using just the very tip of your marker because again, when working in small areas, you're going to want to be gentle and delicate. Otherwise, you're going to end up with your Copic spread out where you don't want it to be and coloring outside the lines, which, let's face it, happens to us all. And then we have to go grab that colorless blender to erase where we didn't mean to color. So we put in our dark spots with the RV14, and now we're going back in with that RV13 just to add in that little bit of light highlight, and it's all done. See, super quick, super easy. Next up, we're going to color the inner ear, and we're using RV34, RV83, RV81. So we're going to start with that RV34, and that is going to be our shadowed area. I'm starting in the left ear. I guess it's his right, our left, and we're going to add that shadow line just above his cheek, and we're going to go in around the bottom of his right ear and go around that cheek and then up the side of his right ear as well. And we're going to extend that a little further this time. We're going up further than where we did on the other side and just adding a little bit more of that shadow area there with our darkest color. Next up, you're going to use your R83 and you're going to continue to fill in that area. And we're going to go over our RV34. Yes, our RV34, we're going to go over that a little bit and extend slightly further out. Again, we're leaving white space. We want to leave room for our lightest color, which is our RV81, to sit. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I find so cute about him. Maybe it's just his sad little face. I know I'm naturally, I guess, as you can tell, a more happy, bubbly person, and definitely chatty. And Eeyore is just constantly sad, but he's so cute. Oh, and sorry, my bad. It was R81, not RV. So we're finishing his ear with R81. So excuse me about that. I did make a mistake there. So our R81, so this is a lighter color for sure. What you're going to see happen as you lay this down is it is going to start to push your dark color out if you are, again, kind of blending it in. This is what we want. We're kind of creating just an effect here where we are going to be pushing that color out to the edges just to really see a difference in how the color is laid and where the shadows are. So don't be afraid when it starts to lighten up your color. So you can see here, we've kind of got that little bit of edge out there on that ear. The next up is our body, which is going to be B97, B95, B93, and B21. And we're going to use a colorless blender as well. So we're starting off with his little feet. And again, he is so cute. I just love him. So we're going to start with that B21 in his feet, and then a little bit on that inside seam on his arms there. Or legs, if you want to call them, because I guess a donkey has 4 legs, no arms. And then into his belly area as well. And once you've got that colored in, that's when we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab our colorless blender and actually use it just to lighten up this color a little bit more. So if you made any boo-boos, get rid of them. Then we're going to use this to just lighten up some areas where we want a little bit more highlight into his paws without having to add another color. Then we'll be going in with our darkest color. So that is our B97, and we're going to start adding his deepest shadowed parts, and we're going to again just use kind of the tip of your marker. I'm going to go around this ear. I'm going in the bottom and going slightly up to the right. If you want right now, you can fill that right in around that under the pink part, because I do go back and I am going to fill that all in because I decided it just needed more shadow on that side. So now I'm going up on the left hand side of his ear, not too much. And then we're going to start to accent his cheeks. Basically anywhere where you want shadow to be hitting is where you're going to be putting this darker color. Very similar to anything else that we've colored before. We always kind of choose where is our light coming from. Usually from the top or top left, top right, depending on what's easier for you, and it might depend on if you're left-handed or right-handed as well. Then that just makes more sense. So pick what makes sense to you for where your light comes from. So I did put some of the blue over some of his stitch or fold lines into his forehead and his nose, and I am adding a little bit into his legs there, and again, very sparingly with this B97, that night blue. And here you can see that I had, like I mentioned earlier, I did want to fill that in a little bit more and then bring up a little bit more of that blue just into the top of his ears where they connect to his head. So our next color up is that B95, light grayish cobalt. Don't know who names these things at Copic, but I don't know. I feel like we could have come up with a better name. That's just me. So we're going to color slightly over that B97 and then extend out. So again, we're not trying to fill the whole thing in. Right now, we're just trying to add that little bit more depth, bring it up slightly higher, still kind of a shadowed look. We're going to go up that center line, and then we're also going to start to fill in just a little bit under that little forelock hair there, just so he's got a little bit more shadow there, but because it's at the top of his head, where there's a little bit more light, it's not that deep shadow color that we used with the B97. So we're going to go under his eyes a little bit with that color as well, and this kind of gives him that sad look as well, the way his eyes are drawn, but you should also think about the way you color it in. So you want him to have that little bit of depth under his eyes. Just helps him make a little bit more sorrowful looking. Now again, we're going to extend out from some of that B97. Again, we're leaving some space, but we're adding more color for sure. Now again, we're going up the eye and around, just outside those lines. And you don't have to be perfect. It will be blended in a little bit later. And as we use this B93, we're going to do that. So our B93 is our next color up here, and we're going to start to blend in and blend up from our dark. Again, we're leaving some white space because we want to have room to put our last color, which is our B21, which is what really melds all the colors together. Now you can see in around his legs, I have filled that in more because I feel like the bottom half of his body is going to be shadowed out more than his head. So you'll see here that I am leaving more white space into his forehead and in the top section there than I did in the bottom. And that is because I do want to be able to add more of the B1 into the top so that his face is brighter as well. And that is kind of what draws your eye instead of the bottom half of his body. So that's why there's less white space into his legs in there. So I'm only putting a little B21 down there to blend in. So again, turning the image, make it easier for you to do. And then now we're going to blend with that marker. The B21 is really going to be your friend here. It is going to help bring everything together. And again, I kind of go in a little bit of a, I'm going to say like a back and forth motion. So I kind of go in a little bit. So I'm stroking down towards the bottom of his ear, but then sometimes I'll go back and forth. So I don't know, like not like a zigzag, but where you, yeah, just back and forth. So again, going around the forelock there, down into his cheek. And again, we're just going to blend that in. And there you could kind of see that movement right over his eyebrow there and right in his cheeks, where it's just kind of like an up and down, back and forth. Up and down, back and forth, side to side, whatever you want to call it. But there, that's the motion I'm talking about right there. So again, we're just kind of filling that in and we're making sure everything blends. And that is exactly what we're doing here. And you really want to blend in a space that is this large. With our chibis, you definitely have some of those smaller spaces, so you don't need to put in a lot of color in a lot of places. But in images like this, you do have quite a bit of, I'm going to call it retail space that you do need to color in. So you do need to be careful about how you're coloring things in and that everything blends really well, because it is a very large area to color overall, even though that it is a smaller image. So again, once things kind of dry down a little bit, I just kind of look, I go over, and I'm like, okay, what needs more? Where do I need more blending? And it really is as simple as that. Copic coloring to me is just about looking at your image and seeing where do I need dark, where do I need light, where do I want it to blend more, what doesn't look right, how do I go over it? And that's about it. It's really not too hard. The more you color, the better you are at it. I myself, I'm not the best Copic color in the world, but I try, and I think my stuff looks good. And Eeyore makes my stuff look better because he's just so darn cute. So anyway, he's all colored up. So now we're going to add our highlights with that white Posca pen. Of course, you can also use a white gel pen if you want as well. I just happen to love my Posca pen. This was a gift from Karen Engilder, who was at she came to the Canadian retreat. She often goes to our US retreats, and she's actually coming on our cruise retreat that's coming up in August, which is so fun. I'm so excited for that. But yeah, she gave me this, and it has become like my greatest love for making highlights. I will never not do my highlights without a white fine tip Posca pen. Again, I love it way more than a gel pen. So here I'm just grabbing my colorless blender and going in the eyes where I have maybe made a boo-boo, and that's okay. We all make mistakes, and I'm just kind of cleaning that up. But I love him. He's adorable. Again, my favorite. Comment who's yours, and when you've done an image, please post it to our Stamp Anything Stampers group. We'd love to see what you've done. So thank you very much for watching. It has been a pleasure coloring with you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. And again, we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.